Howdy folks, I'm Mega Matt. We're a wedding DJ entertainment service located right here in beautiful Mankato, Minnesota. We specialize in creating both fun and family-friendly wedding receptions. Our goal is to make your guests say, this was the single funnest wedding reception that we've ever been to. So if that's what you're looking for, you've come to the right place. So let's go ahead and start to create the soundtrack to your perfect wedding reception. If the goal is to keep as many people dancing as humanly possible, we believe that every single guest should know every single song. If you do this, people will dance. When it comes to music planning, we believe that thirds is typically a very good approach. And what I mean by this is a third of the music comes from you guys as a couple, sitting down and maybe writing out a little playlist for the night. A third of it tends to come from the guests also, and the last third tends to come from me and the 20 years of experience that we have. When it comes to the grand entrance, there's just a couple of simple things that we need to know. First of all, would you like to do one? The ramping grand entrance is probably the most popular. It starts very conversationally with your audience, oftentimes with me asking them, hey, what are you guys looking forward to? And it ends very presentationally with you guys coming into the room, everyone standing on their feet and applauding as you walk to get greeted to the biggest night of your life. We've found that a few accessories in general always improve the entertainment value of any grand entrance. Typically, after a grand entrance, if there's a welcome or a prayer from a dad or a pastor, this is when that would be performed. So let's talk a little bit about the social hour at your wedding reception. Typically, the music consists of Colby Calais, Michael Bublé, Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, that genre of music. From there, the top of the list of things that people typically add at a wedding reception is still an old school slideshow. Let's talk about the time between the speeches being over, the dinner being finished up, and before the dance starts. Typically, this time is used as a social hour at most wedding receptions. I believe after 20 years of doing this, that you should do something during this time to help keep the guests laughing and engaged with the party so that nobody leaves. Still topping the list is an old school game called the back-to-back game. In this activity, we'll ask that you guys come up, stand back-to-back with one another, and we'll ask you a series of questions about your relationship. If you believe that you're the right answer, you're gonna go ahead and you're gonna raise your shoe. If you believe that your spouse is maybe a better answer to the question, you're gonna go ahead and you're gonna raise your spouse's shoe. The next activity is called brain freeze, and it's very simple. The wedding party comes forwards, they stand shoulder to shoulder facing out towards the rest of the group. We'll give them a suggestion, such as an occupation, and they have to come up with one word that relates to whatever that suggestion is. So an example of this is things that you would find at a hospital. And one person might say a nurse, another person might say a doctor, and the minute that one of those guests or your wedding party freezes, the audience is going to go ahead and buzz them, and thus eliminating them from the game. This game concludes with asking about you two as a couple, and we'll go right down the list with giving me one word that reminds you of the bride. So one person might say beautiful, awesome, fantastic, until somebody freezes, and then they get eliminated from the game. This next activity is called the hand to hold. What we will do is, as the groom, we'll throw a microphone in your right hand, and with your left hand, you'll be asked to touch a whole bunch of different hands. As the MC, I will ask you this one simple question: is this your wife? Slowly give that arm a little touch, a little tickle. Tell me, is that your wife?
I don't think so. I hope not.
What is that one?
Hairy.
The next activity is called Question Question. For this activity, we'll ask that couples come forwards, stand facing their significant other, and all they have to do is ask a question. We're gonna go rapid fire back and forth until one of them freezes. The minute that they freeze, the audience will go ahead and buzz them. So she might say, why is the sky blue? He might ask, why is the grass green? She might say, how did we get here tonight? And he might ask, how are we getting home? As long as it's a question, they stay in the game. The minute that it's not, the audience buzz them, they get eliminated, and we narrow the group down to just the last two people. This game is incredibly fun if you have good outgoing people that are in your audience. So your job is to just make a quick decision on which of these activities, if any, that you would like to use at your wedding reception. With that being said, one of the key things is, because of the level of experience that I have, you can just grant that to me and say, will you figure this out for us on the night of the wedding? Oftentimes this works the best because then we can kind of get a vibe for what the group is like on that night. After the speeches are wrapped up, we have a unique opportunity to do something for the little ones in the group. It's now time for the kids dance. If you guys are inviting kids to the wedding, Oftentimes, throwing a little kids dance for anywhere between 5 to 15 minutes gives the parents a good chance to go over and get a drink and gives the kids something fun to do. Following the kids dance, oftentimes it's fun to get a couple of little kids up, put them on chairs, and then do a little activity called Kids Say the Darndest Things. In this activity, we like to ask the little ones questions about love, marriage, and relationships. Oftentimes the questions are simple, like how old should you be when you get married, or how old should you be when you go on your first date? Let's talk about your first dance and some of the unique things that can be done. First and foremost, do you have a song picked out? If you do, when would you like that song played? Traditionally, after the first dance, we do a father-daughter dance. If you're still close with your dad, this is something that you may want to consider. The father-daughter dance usually just consists of one song. If you need some suggestions, up underneath one of the tabs, you can see father-daughter dances there. When it comes to the mother-son dance, just pick a song for that. We'll play that on the night of your wedding. Some couples, just to get to the dance a little bit sooner, elect to combine both the father-daughter and mother-son dance together. So just decide on how you'd like some of these first dances to go. We'll talk about this when we meet with you in person. Let's talk a little bit about the specialty dances for the night. The first one is an anniversary dance. And in this way, we ask all of the married couples to come out to the dance floor, and we begin to dismiss them based on how long they've been married. So oftentimes I'll start by saying, if you've been married for 12 hours or less, please leave the dance floor. Well, obviously you guys are out of there. And then 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, right on up. It's very fun when you get to the end of it and you're at 50 and 60 years to just take a moment to honor some of these people that have literally spent a lifetime being married. When it comes to the rest of the specialty songs, oftentimes we like to play them on a per request basis. Songs like the Cupid Shuffle, the Cha-Cha Slide, the Macarena, only if people come up and specifically ask for them do we usually like to put them on. With that being said, it's kind of nice to know if they're on the do not playlist right off the bat. Let's go ahead and talk about your bouquet toss. 90% of the couples that book our show still plan on doing some sort of a bouquet toss. With that being said, instead of just throwing a bouquet to the single ladies, which is a little slightly awkward, why not throw a bouquet made of lottery tickets to all of the women in the whole group? In this way, it's inclusive to the whole group instead of being exclusive to just the single ladies. Gentlemen, let's take a minute to talk about your garter removal. 50% of the guys that book our show choose not to do anything with the garter removal. They just think it's awkward. That's fine, that's what I did at my wedding. But for the other 50% that do choose to do a garter removal because it's a little bit of a rite of passage, there's a whole bunch of different ways that we can handle it. Probably the most traditional way is use the groom, basically approach your bride, and slip the garter removal up. One tiny step up from there is to actually blindfold you as the groom and ask you to remove your wife's garter. The next step up from that is to have your groomsmen come over and actually pick you up like a battering ram. The next step up is to go dancing on up the middle. And what we mean by this is two groups are set 15 feet apart from each other and maybe 15, 20 people in each group. Your job is to dance your way on up the middle, and the bride works kind of like Caesar, where a thumbs up means that you can go ahead and you can remove the garter, a thumbs down means you need to return back to the beginning and start all on over. Then we usually let the people around the edges play a quick game of musical chairs where the winner of musical chairs then gets to keep the bride's garter. The garter hunt is probably the craziest way to handle the garter removal. This way of doing it, we get 15, 20 guys to put on 1980s women's wedding dresses, and then you as the groom have to figure out which pair of legs belongs to your wife. With that being said, like I said at the beginning, 50% of the people choose not to do any garter removal whatsoever. A typical dollar dance, if done correctly, can usually last anywhere between 6 to 8 minutes when it's done quickly. A replacement for the dollar dance that's actually proved to work really, really well is to do a cake smash. And what I mean by that is the cake smash consists of the best man, maid of honor, going out into the audience, collecting money, and then that money is kind of used in place of the dollar dance. Are you interested in doing a cake smash? If you are, could we do that as a replacement to the dollar dance? So pick one or the other, either a cake smash during the meal or a dollar dance much later on at night. Battle of the Sexes is an awesome late night activity. Oftentimes we'll give them a suggestion, and then with their entire group, like the guys versus the girls, they have to form whatever that suggestion is using only their bodies. So an example of this would be show me pairs figure skating. Everyone grabs a partner and it gets crazy pretty quickly. Or show me Black Friday at Walmart. The activity concludes with both sides being asked to show us how they would behave and act at the single greatest event that they had ever been to in their entire life. Let's talk a little bit about how we wrap up at the end of the night at your wedding reception. And one of the goals that I have for you guys is that the night essentially comes to a crescendo. And what I mean by that is there's something that we can do or plan so that there's something for people to look forward to. Well, sometimes that's as simple as doing a sparkler ending. Sometimes it's as simple as playing Piano Man and having the whole group around in a big circle, or Don't Stop Believing and taking a big final end of the night photo. So do a little talking about how you want it to wrap up. We'll make sure to talk about that when we meet with you in person.